Folks, I've had an epiphany about the way the world works, particularly biologically, how plants, animals, soil, all of this is working together. And it pretty much boils everything down to a very simple way of thinking about it. So today we're going to be talking about decomposers and recomposers and how we can use this way of thinking to manage our garden so it can be highly productive. So let's get to it. Alright, so we all know what a decomposer is. They're bacteria in the soil. They break things down to their basic components. More specifically, they break dead things down, regardless of how they died. Maybe it was a branch that fell off of the tree that was just not getting enough sun and it was useless to the tree, so it dropped the branch. Or if a predator came along and killed something and left a carcass there, these decomposers would break it down into its most basic components. And so why is this so important? Because plants don't have stomachs or mouths. They have no digestive system. So it's these bacteria in the soil that are digesting all life so that the plant can eat it. And so the cool thing about bacteria in the soil is they actually secrete an enzyme outside of their little cell or body or whatever. Some are multicellular, some are single cells. They excrete an enzyme, and that enzyme will actually digest material outside of the bacteria. And then it will eat some of that, and then it will interact with the plants and give them what they need. And so that's why when I plant stuff, I'm putting down organic material in the ground and I'm planting on top of that because that's plant food. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to feed your plants, you have to give them something that was living. And so for us, really for any animal, the best thing to give a plant is poop. Couple reasons. Poop, it's already partially digested. If you've ever found predator poop, you will know that there's a lot of fur, feathers, bones, I found like the toenails of mice in a bobcat scat, all kinds of different stuff. And these are the things that the animal could not digest in their stomach. The other reason poop is great is because it is of no other use to me or to any animal other than to use it as fertility for plants. Alright, so now I want to talk about recomposers. We know what decomposers are. We need to talk about recomposers because I think this is a word I just made up. I'm not sure. But plants are recomposers. Hold on, I gotta show you this monarch here. There's that monarch. This is the biggest butterfly we've got out here. And well, it's done. Oh, it actually landed on that leaf. But anyway, that's the biggest butterfly we've got, and my neighbor grows a lot of milkweed that they host on. So they lay their eggs over there and they come over to my house for some nectar. Alright, so recomposers. Back at it. Recomposers take broken down components of organic life and recompose them into something new. So a seed gets planted, the energy in the seed creates a little plant with a root. That root begins collecting the things that are left over from that's broken down by these bacteria and starts utilizing it, bringing in the energy, or bringing in the water, the carbon, the minerals, everything it needs that it gets in the soil that has been broken down from some other life form, and then it uses sun energy to compose a new plant or to produce a new plant. And then what's really interesting is you have other recomposers who are on some level really a recomposer and a decomposer, because they will then go and, let's say, look at this, like this okra here. I'll come by, I'm a recomposer, I'll come by, eat this okra, my stomach breaks it down into more basic components that are able to be absorbed by my body to build it up, to compose it, and so, create muscles and, renew old tissue, and anything that's breaking down my body can renew it and add to it. And so it's taking this thing that has been composed, decomposing it, and then recomposing it for my body, for the strength of my body, or the vitality or life, whatever you want to call it. And then I get rid of that waste. And then that waste goes back into the soil to get further digested or decomposed, so that is now available for the plants again. And what's really neat is the plants actually have a relationship with the bacteria down in the soil, where they are, it's like an underground economy down there with the roots and the bacteria, because the plants have a unique ability. They're taking carbon out of the air, they're getting water out of the ground, they're combining this in forming carbohydrates. Did you realize that carbohydrates is carbon and water just boom together, makes, which are sugars? And then they're trading that, which is high in energy, and they're trading that with the bacteria for various nutrients in the soil. And so when we see these really dark-leaved plants, we can tell that it's really good stuff is going on in the soil. And the stronger that, I guess you can call it, an economy is in the soil, the better. And you always want to be cycling everything back through the soil, because that's how soil is built. And that carbon that's coming out of the air getting put in the soil is a really important part of building the soil, because all of life on Earth is based on carbon. All of our structure is heavily based on carbon. And so when we begin to understand how these cycles work and how we can get the cycles moving, and then what we can do to make the cycles move faster and get bigger and bigger and bigger and produce healthier and healthier and stronger soil, more and more fertile, that's when we begin to have a very, very lush garden. And so this is why, like, I make these videos about, making these poop holes and then planting on top of it, because otherwise I'm just robbing from the cycle. Like, a garden is a cycle. And if I do not include myself in the food production cycle, then I'm robbing from it, and I have to be adding nutrients from somewhere else. And so, sure, that could be in the form of, chicken manure, because I'm buying in most of their feed and giving it to them, and they're pooping it out, and that's adding to it. But why would I do that when I have free fertility? That is, oh, there's that monarch again. Free fertility to build up the soil. Something landed on my arm, I don't know. So that's all I'm saying with all this stuff. It just makes sense, and I'm not doing it just because I want to make people think I'm weird, but I'm honestly just doing it because that's the way the world works. So I'm not gonna argue. Who am I to argue with it? So that's all that's the only point I'm trying to make. And so this is the way it works. And let's cut to a really cool shot of a monarch, because it's happening on the other side of the camera. All right, so in conclusion here, soil and soil health is what produces most all terrestrial produced food, not the ocean. Or maybe rivers have something to do with it. They're probably connected somehow. But if we do not create and manage for the health of our soil, we will not be able to produce lots and lots of food. Lots of good, healthy, nutritious food. And so this channel is all about producing food in my backyard. And so my focus is not on yields or whatever fancy kinds of produce. You're not going to see me growing a beefsteak tomato, but it's about really getting honest about how do you produce lots of good food in a small setting, because that's what I've got. Maybe one day it'll be a bigger setting, hopefully, but for now this is what we got. And the way to do that is to not rob from the system, give the waste back to the garden. Second thing you need to do is have roots in the ground as much as possible. As many different kinds of plants, not as many different, you don't want like 500 different kinds of plants, because that would just be weird. But you want what is going to grow well in your environment. So I grow what grows well in my environment. Beefsteak tomatoes are not one of the things that grows well here. So I use Everglades tomatoes. They grow amazingly well, super easy. The other thing is, I don't want to work very hard for my plants. I want them to be doing the work for me. So we don't want to be a slave to the land or a servant to the land. We want the plants and the animals to be serving us. That's just kind of how it works, if we're going to be honest about it. And then the other thing is, we want to include animals, which is, for me, it's me and chickens, to create disturbance and add fertility to the soil. And yeah, and when we think about everything in here as just a cycle of things getting broken down and getting built back up, that's when we can begin to understand this concept of all organic material, matter, whatever, it's all valuable in my garden. And so there's going to be zero organic material leaving my garden, and I'm only going to be bringing in organic material to increase the fertility of the soil. So for me, it's, bags of leaves by and large. And that's how it works here. And when we manage our garden by these principles and with this understanding of everything's getting broken down and built back up, we will have a highly productive garden that is growing out of very rich soil. And when you have rich soil, you have rich people. And that's just a fact. So hope you guys have a great day. I hope this changed the way you think about stuff, and that you begin to apply this on whatever land you have dominion over. I hope you apply these principles on it and build amazing soil for yourself. All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye.